first, we are going to jump into a fireside chat with one of my new favorite people in the whole wide world. Her name is Nikki Reed. You know her best as an actress and writer. She is also an amazing entrepreneur in the sustainable space, which is something I'm personally passionate about. She started her company From Bayou with Love back in 2017. It's a sustainable lifestyle company, and it supports local artisans and craftsmen and ethical factories. And Nikki is also an amazing animal rights activist, rescuing dogs right now, actually, during the pandemic, which I think is awesome. So we have lots to talk about, and I want to jump right in. Are you there, Nikki?
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
How are you? Thanks for that sweet intro.
No problem. I love that plant in your background. It's giving me life.
Right. This plant has gotten a lot of really good use out of it during this pandemic, right? We need something to create a little background color.
I love how you have a real plant and I have a fake plant behind me for this way. Awesome. But thanks for joining us today. You know, our audience, our community, they're all creators, small business owners. And obviously during this pandemic, it's been such a wild year. And I think everybody's been impacted, you know, both positively and negatively. So my first question for you is like, how has it been for you as an entrepreneur this year? What challenges have you faced and what changes have you had to make?
You know, I think that during this, I don't know what we should call it, except really like this giant pause that we're all experiencing, I think there's also been a lot of forward momentum too. You know, it's a moment in time for business owners, especially, or creators, whatever, you know, however you create, whether that's content or fashion or, you know, what you choose to write about, how you choose to see the world, whatever you're doing and creating. I think it's a nice moment for everybody. Maybe nice is not the right word. Let me just, but it's an appropriate moment for all of us to think about how we're operating, how we're conducting business, what we're choosing to spend our time and energy and resources on, and what we're presenting to the world, what we're researching. So I've noticed, you know, even though we are a sustainable company, and the whole reason behind Bayou, the mission behind Bayou, yes, it's of course to create beautiful products, but at the end of the day, it's about creating products that are also as beautiful in their message as they are in their mission. Sorry, I have a lot of animals around. And she's making her debut. Another little rescue kitty. And so I think it's been a really great moment to dive even further into that for me as a business owner, because at the end of the day, sustainability isn't really enough. At this point, you know, we've really depleted Mother Earth of all of her natural resources to the point of, you know, we really need the pendulum to swing the other way, and we need to regenerate and replenish and kind of go to another version of extreme. So neutrality, sustainability, all of that kind of isn't enough anymore. We need to really replenish and regenerate. So as a business, I've been focusing heavily during this time on how to create regenerative products in this space. You know, the fashion industry is undoubtedly one of the most destructive industries in the world. And so it's time for all of us to really take 5 steps forward instead of just 1 step at a time.
Awesome. And what inspired you to create Bayou with Love? Like, obviously you're invested in sustainability, but was there a certain shift in your life when it comes to, you know, just how you live and how you consume, or has this been a lifelong thing for you?
I get asked that question a lot, like, what was the moment? You know, there wasn't really a moment. I can't recall a moment. It's like asking me, like, when did you fall in love with animals? You know, I can just say, like, I remember being a child and, you know, and rescuing a lot of animals, but I can't pinpoint like the moment that bled into the rest of my life. And I think sustainability is, you know, I have a similar answer in relationship to that, which is, you know, everything is actually connected. So you learn a little bit about something and it leads you into the next area, and the next door opens and then you're on the next path. And it probably all started with animal activism, to be honest with you, because my love for animals, I think, brought me into this space of, well, then I'm not going to eat them anymore. And so plant-based living and healthy living, I think kind of moved me into, okay, so what are we doing in the agriculture space to our planet and in the food space in general? You know, if we want to talk about, I think a real passion area for me, which I don't talk about too much, but I think I need to start exploring this in a more conversational way, which is, you know, the plant-based movement, which is so amazing. You know, I love hearing about people being, you know, more conscious of what they're consuming, but the plant-based movement has also brought us into a space of terrible consumption habits. I mean, just because you're not eating animals doesn't mean that the marketplace isn't capitalizing on the desire to eat plant-based and everything coming in plastic and packaging and preservatives. And, you know, it's so like, I try to stay in the positive, so I don't want to go dark right now, but it's so sad to me to realize that once we kind of start to get it as human beings, it feels like the marketplace really does take advantage of that. And they go like, okay, how do we monetize that? And, you know, the plant-based movement is one of them. Like now you see everybody needs to have like protein shakes and protein bars. And how many more things can we buy that just sit in our pantry and not in our refrigerator? No one's talking about, I mean, people are talking about growing food, but I mean, in that marketplace, we're not teaching people how to farm. We're teaching people how to purchase more, you know? And I think that is definitely something that's like, frustrating to see and witness. But anyway, so it started with animals and then moved into probably plant-based eating and then moved into the environment. And then you kind of just realize the interconnectedness between all of it. I mean, whatever your passion is, if you're an activist in any form, you realize it's connected to everything else. It's not really a singular passion, you know?
Right. And so it seems like it was like the journey is really organic for you and it continues to be, which is awesome. I think honestly, every industry is male dominated in a sense. But were there any specific challenges that you faced as a woman in the sustainability space when it came to starting your business?
Sometimes I wake up and I feel like there's so much progress that's been made that it's like, why are we even focusing on this? We just need to be focusing on what we're doing and building amazing companies as women and not focus on the, you know, the polarization and separation. And then other days I wake up and I am really frustrated at, you know, the obstacles and challenges that I do feel like I face as a woman. I mean, here's the thing. I think great to focus on that. But I think for me personally, I want to focus my energy into just creating those opportunities for other women, watching Bayou succeed and finding ways to succeed in every way that I can, whatever that definition of success is, by the way. That doesn't necessarily mean, and we can talk about this in a minute, but I want Bayou to stay a small business. I think that there's tremendous success in small business. But anyway, I feel like if we just create those opportunities for other women and we don't get too stuck on the whys and hows in the past, yeah, we have to change the infrastructure from the ground up, but we can also do that as successful, badass business owners, and not get in our own way by putting too much of our energy into the why is it this way. I can tell you that, you know, with Bayou, not only being a woman, but also trying to create in a way that had never been done before. You know, I was creating products out of recycled gold found in recovered technology and the extraction process, and then bringing that gold to the factory. I was having conversations with, you know, our manufacturers, like, they were going, hey, so how are we going to receive this gold? Like, does it come in pellets or trays, or what are you doing delivering gold in this way? Normally the process, and I don't want to bore you with this, but the way this works is when you create jewelry, you create a product and then you purchase that gold from your factory, and then they bill you for the cost of that gold into each piece. Well, if I'm providing the gold, then we have to account for who's taking care of that gold and watching it, also gold loss, and keeping track of by the gram, every single gram of gold that goes into each piece, and weighing out every single piece to account for that gold. So there's obviously tremendous gold loss and opportunities for this to not be an efficient business model. And so I have to be very on top of it. And a lot of times within the Bayou house, we're all women currently. Actually, that's not true. We do have one man who's now working in the Bayou world, but we're mostly women. But in the jewelry industry as a whole, I feel like I'm speaking to a lot of men all the time. And sometimes you feel like you have to like hold your own and like walk into a room and talk to, a table full of men about something that, they've maybe been doing this for decades, and this is a family owned business or something like that. And here I am coming in, a newcomer in this industry with a ton of kind of disruptive ideas in a sense, because we're talking sustainability. So anyway.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the amount of care that goes into sustainable products. But at the same time, like you just said, it can be, just challenging to balance it all and to keep up and to make sure all the boxes are being checked off. So like, kudos to you. I'm like, could I do that? I don't know.
Yes, yes, you can.
I can. Positive affirmation. My next question, going back to what you briefly said before about wanting to stay a small business, what are your reasons for that? And I guess what exactly does that mean? What does that look like in terms of your business?
Well, the reason I say that is because I'm working in a space where so Bayou, like I said before, we're a mission-driven company. Now, of course, you have to create products that appeal to people, because at the end of the day, people want to spend their money on something to have that they feel connected to. And, a lot of times that starts on a superficial level. It's got to be a beautiful product. One of the reasons I love working in the jewelry space is because we're creating products that are treasures and family heirlooms and get passed down from generation to generation. I mean, it's very, very unlikely that you'll find a diamond ring tossed into a landfill. It's an asset. And so it's passed around. And I think if we could adopt that model in all areas of fashion, we would see a lot, obviously a lot less waste, but a lot, a circular model for fashion is really the only way forward. And the reason I want to stay a small business is because I feel I already have experienced in the small amount of growth that we have had, that the second you start producing on a mass scale, you have to inevitably compromise on what your morals are as a company. And to a certain extent, I think you have to detach a little bit from, like, our checklist was very long, right? Okay, we want everything to be sustainable, ethical, consciously sourced, organic, if we're talking clothing space, locally produced, upcycled, recycled. The list is long. And there are areas where you have to sometimes compromise. For example, we're currently researching and exploring the idea of splitting some of our production and, yes, keeping the majority of it local in Los Angeles, but then moving a portion of production to a different factory that specializes in some of the pieces that we want to create next. And maybe I can't produce every single thing in California forever. I'm not sure, but I'm exploring it right now. That's one area that maybe you compromise because you found a factory that, let's say, will also work with your recycled gold and produce in the way that, what your standards are. Okay, great. One area to compromise. But when it comes to, like, for example, greenwashing and, taking a business that was initially in its heart, truly sustainable with all the right goals. And then you watch as these companies grow and suddenly you hear from the founders like, oh, once it took off and it wasn't in my hands anymore, it became a totally different beast, and I just don't want to see that happen to Bayou. It's too personal for me. The company is, I recognize that there are really difficult challenges that we face trying to produce the way that I intend to keep producing. But I also think that I have a moral responsibility as a business owner and somebody who started this with my own heart and soul and personal moral compass invested. I feel like I have a responsibility to continue on that path and not stray because there are other ways that are more profitable. Yeah, of course, we all want to have a profitable company. In fact, the company can't continue if it's not profitable. So we need to figure out that balance. But I do think that there's a way to do both. And I like staying small. Like, to me, I think we're already at 35% of our end goal growth.
Awesome. So it sounds like, especially for those of you out there, if you are building a mission-based company, like these are things you want to think about as you continue to grow. Like, how do I make sure I'm not compromising, but also how do I make a profit, and sort of like finding that balance there. I think that's really, really great advice.
Yeah, the profit is a tough conversation to have, because most people, myself included, before Bayou, just simply aren't educated on what it means to create a product, what steps you have to go through to create that product and then get it into the hands of consumers, and why profit margins look the way they do. Before I started Bayou, I didn't even understand what a wholesale margin was. When I was going through margins, I was like, what do you mean? We have to create, what does a 2 markup mean versus a 4 markup? Like, none of that, I didn't even know that language. And now, the reason why we're a direct-to-consumer business and we don't have a wholesale margin built in. So for those of you who don't know, basically you create a product. Let's say that product is $5 to create. Your wholesale margin is 2 times that, and then your retail margin is 4 times that. Those are loose figures, but that's basically what it is. And that's so that you can sell at that middle ground to third-party retailers, whoever that is, for fashion, if that's your Barney's or your Nordstroms or whatever. And you still, as a company, need to make a small profit. So you have a wholesale margin built in. Well, we can't have a wholesale margin built in because I'm producing in the US, which is so much more costly than producing overseas. I mean, astronomically higher. We're talking the difference between 12 cents to set a diamond in China versus $4, sometimes $8 to set that one stone. So if you're looking at a ring that's, say, like, a ring like this that has diamonds all the way around, pave diamonds, and you're talking about, 50 stones. 50 stones at 12 cents a stone looks a lot different than 50 stones at $4 or $8 a stone. So as a US-based company, when you try to explain that to the customer and they're like, wait, I'll never be able to compete with China prices, for example. I just won't. And so your customer either comes to you because they want to spend a little bit more because they believe in what you're creating and they know that you're creating in the right way, or they, or that doesn't necessarily matter to them and they're just looking at price. But we'll never be able to compete with China prices. And the closest we can get is by staying a direct-to-consumer business and not having a wholesale margin built in. And I don't know if this interests your audience at all, but a lot of people ask me when they say I want to start a company, but they're like, I don't necessarily know what that company should be. So what do I do? Because I know I want to be a business owner. I know I'm passionate about, let's say, this one area, whatever that is, but they don't know what that one thing is. And, I used to think you needed to know what that one thing is to start your own company. But I have to say, Bayou actually started in a different area and we graduated into this. We found our place because of customer feedback. I come from a family of jewelry designers. My great-grandmother was a jewelry designer, and then her daughter, my grandmother, was an artist. And I started my first jewelry line actually when I was in my early 20s. It just was short-lived because I wasn't necessarily ready. But Bayou actually started when we launched, creating products that I couldn't find in the marketplace, in the skincare, beauty, apparel, multifunctional apparel and skincare space. And very quickly we moved into jewelry when I got a phone call from Dell saying, hey, we know you work in sustainability, you create sustainable products. We have a really great idea, but we don't know what to do with it. We have gold that's been found in the motherboards of our recycled technology, but we don't have an idea for what this could be. Do you want to partner? And I was like, of course I know what this could be. This is going to be, recycled tech jewelry. And it really became our thing, and people were really seeking out Bayou because of that one thing. So we focused heavily in that space, and it all fell into place the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, so natural.
People, if you have any kind of area of passion, anything that speaks to you, you might decide tomorrow, like, I have a great idea to start this bread company. I want to make bread, and I feel like it could be, like a gluten-free, sprouted, yeast-free bread, or whatever your idea is. And I want to sell it at farmers markets. Great, do that thing, because you can get to that farmers market and you can talk to people and have that direct customer relationship. And you might actually realize that your thing is not going to be bread. It's going to be creating the sustainable tray that you build loaves in and you end up making $1 bajillion because that's your company. But I guess I would just say, like, don't pause until you come up with the idea. Like, just do.
Just start. I love that. And I think that's a perfect way to wrap this up. I so wish we could talk more because you're just giving the best advice and I'm soaking it all in. I'm sure everyone is too. But I think we're going to leave it there. That's a great way to cap it off. Thank you so much, my fellow Nikki, for joining us. Yes, everyone make sure you check out Buy You With Love. I'm obsessed with all the jewelry. I'm like, I need this, 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 and this. I'm
going to send you a treat.
Don't get me so excited, girl. Anyway, we're gonna jump off. Jen Denton's gonna jump on to introduce our next segment. Thanks again, Nikki.
Thank you.